Well, guess it's time I gotta drag this boat out and put a motor on it. Got a few things move, trailer, car, some junk that I threw on the ground that I just shouldn't have. I'll get everything hooked up and drag this thing out into the garage there, and we'll go about changing the motor. Got her hooked up. Let's unwrap this thing. It's a 1983 VIP. Thinking 83. Could be 84. I don't remember. This seems real dirty in the inside. Last year's boating season ended abruptly with a bunch of troubleshooting and trying to figure out what's wrong with the motor. So by the time I figured it was dead, I didn't feel like messing with it. Covered it back up, and she's sat ever since. When I got this little girl, she was in bad shape. It was totally, what do you call that? Dried out, disgusting. She was just in terrible shape. I spent hours and hours trying to buff this finish out and get it kind of somewhat back to some kind of good lookingness. It really turned out nice, except for the fact it's got a dead engine. I redid all the interior, covered all this stuff myself, including these big side panels. I built this. This is about 1.5 inch thick marine grade plywood with the trolling motor on it. Captain's chair. I also have the correct seats, you know, that go there, and then the little pointy one up there. These ones hinge open, like every speedboat, but we do probably more fishing than anything else in this old girl. Interior, just a couple of swivel captain's chairs, similar to what it would have had brand new. That piece I made, it was missing. It's missing the button steps. I opened it up so that I could disconnect the battery, which is down here. I made that piece there, put the cup holders in it. The only thing I haven't done is those side panels there. Those side panels and the white, it's all one piece. Haven't done anything there. Just your basic little boat. The floors in this thing when I got it were absolutely horrific. It was just terrible. They're dirty right now, but this carpet looks really, really nice. When I got this boat, it had 2 screwed together layers of plywood, just with some outdoor carpet screwed right down on top of there. There was none of that. Well, the boat weighed a ton. The floors were rotted. I could tell it had soft spots. Like up in there, it was just super soft. Carpet would never dry. So I cut that out, and I'll put some pictures in here to show you what it looked like. I pull that piece out, and then it had a second solid floor. Looked a lot like this, except it did not have this guy. It wasn't there. It was just all flat. So that was all rotted. So I cut that out all the way. And then underneath of that was the original floor, which had a cutout right there. That thing was missing. The stainless trim around it was missing. And they had filled that entire ski well down there's hollow, all the way up to the front of that. They had filled the entire thing with expandable foam. So I tore that floor up. So this thing had literally like at least 4 inches, probably 5 inches of floor. And the foam underneath it was just completely waterlogged. It was absolutely horrific. I took probably 600 pounds of rotted wood and stinky stuff out. I ground it all the way down to the hole basically and rebuilt all the wood in there. Used marine grade plywood, 3/4 inch. I found this guy on eBay. Got that wood kind of restored. Keep skis and usually fishing poles down in there, but that's just a quick intro. I get this thing going. I added a second bilge pump. Funny story there, I almost got my boat sunk, so I added one of those. That story is really funny. I have to tell you about that sometime. Don't have time to now, but current problem is this guy. That's just oil. I had it running in a bucket for a little short period of time, and as you can see, she was putting out some stuff. I'll pop the cover off, get the motor kind of down where we can look at it, and I'll show you what went wrong. I covered what happened to this in the troubleshooting video on the 70 horse motor, but basically, I think I had a head gasket fail. There was a clean spot where it looked like water was getting from the outer sleeve into the center cylinder here. That's just light surface rust. That did not look like that when I took the head off, but anyways, over here on the side covers, you see in that bottom hole there, right there, it burnt the piston up. See how that's scoring? It's pretty bad. I've seen a lot worse, but I could probably pretty easily fix this, but I got very little money in the 90 horse that we're gonna put in here. And the 90 horse is what this originally had. This motor's definitely buildable, pretty clean. But by the time you get done doing a little machine work, boring those cylinders out, you know, they put a new cylinder in an outboard, they gotta put all these holes in there on both sides, and you run into a lot of money. So we're gonna see if this 90 horse will work, and if it blows up, we'll slap the 70 on there and repeat, I guess. So what I gotta do now, like I was telling you in the Will It Run, all these lower sections, all this stuff's all interchangeable between all the Chrysler motors. You can see, in fact, this section, slightly different color than this. That I changed out because I had a pin seize up. But what I gotta do here is I'm gonna raise the motor up. I gotta pull this bolt here. I gotta pull the lift cylinder bolt, which goes through here. That basically detaches this from this bracket. Gotta pop that off or reuse this whole arm from the other motor, depending on what condition it's in. And then of course your battery and control cables, then the fuel. You can see better over here. pull this cable out, this one out. One's for the throttle, one's for the forward and reverse. But I'm gonna go ahead and get everything set up, get some tools out, and we'll get the cherry picker and pluck this thing right up off of here. Slap the other one on there. All right, so like I told you when we did the will it run on the other, all these motors from this manufacturer has basically your wiring layout here, and it's all set up with the starter solenoid here, regulator or rectifier right there, and your wire color pinouts for where your control cable comes in, which is this guy. So all you got is a negative battery cable, positive battery cable, and one set of control cables that comes from the ignition switch. So I just take a picture of what's here because the configuration is slightly different with this being a points ignition system. Just mark what it is when it comes out so that I know if I ever put a 70 back on here or a points engine or anything, I know exactly what needs to go where. And then just match up what's on that guy over there, and we'll be on the road. Water, I guess that'd be water, right? Anyways, let's get going. Before we tear this thing apart, while I'm thinking about it, never get in to the back of your motor here and start pulling it around left and right. It's not designed to operate that way. If you need to turn your motor, just get up in there, reach over and turn the steering wheel. Coming back here and just wrenching around on this thing will damage this cable that goes up in there and then curves around up through the side of the boat up to the controls and the steering wheel. Don't jerk this unless you want to replace a cable that's expensive and a pain in the butt to change on an older boat. So, quick tech tip. Let's set up. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and get the power and control cable set up off. I've already checked, double checked that I don't have voltage. So, need to pull this guy off. Let's see. It's metric. I'll be back. Okay, now that I'm back with my metric stuff, this boat has a mixture of metric and standard, typical 80s stuff. It's usually a lot easier if you're swapping out a boat motor to stick with a specific manufacturer. Get to jumping around different brands, and you have different bolt configurations and control setup configurations, and your transom holes are going to be different, so it's best just to stick with as close to the original style engine as you can. So I've seen some good like Johnsons and stuff like that for sale, but that's more work than you want to get into, really. Just be patient and find, you know, a correct style replacement engine, and or just spend a bunch of money and build the one you got. Okay, that's my ground. So my positive and negative cables are loose. I need to get one bracket off down here that holds both cables. Now, what I'm doing here, swapping the entire engine, the whole unit, the lower unit, everything, is not absolutely necessary. I could pluck just the engine loose right here from the base, just the engine off, and put that other one on it. But like I said, I want to upgrade to the newer style prop and different lower unit. So just swapping the whole mess out. And besides, this lower unit, where the impeller goes, that aluminum housing has some decent sized corrosion pits in it that tends to chew up impellers. So I change the impeller every single year, inspect it a couple of times a year just to make sure that that wasn't happening. So okay, I'm gonna back you up a little bit. Now we just pop off all these power cables so I can pull the control cable assembly out. This swap is about as straightforward a swap as you can get. It's like pulling a small block Chevy out of a 1970 El Camino and putting it in a 69. Just don't get much simpler. Okay. My power cable's off. Feed these guys right out this hole. Okay. Disconnected power wise. All right, same thing on this side. Similar thing, I should say. Got one fuel line going to my pump. Hopefully that's all drained back. Got this cable and this cable to pop off. It's a flat blade screwdriver there, flat blade there. This one, the bottom one's gonna be a little more difficult to get to, but I marked them top and bottom and on both sides of the cable, so there's no confusion putting it back in. There's one retainer screw here, like on the other side. I'm gonna cut the gas line last so that it's not puking gas out. So pop this guy off. Try my best not to drop the screw down into the bottom of the lower unit. Okay. Screw right back in the hole for the next guy. And I'm gonna run over here and get a flat blade screwdriver. Okay. And this one's straight up and down. It's a little more of a challenge getting in there. And a lot more of a challenge not dropping the screw. Bolt. Okay. That guy out. Now I'll very carefully try to put that one back. Sorry, my hands are in the way. This motor has a original American Electric Cable Company spark plug wires dated at 1969. And my chicken is photo bombing me, video bombing me like she always likes to do. Okay, so I'll pull this screw and pull these out as a unit. I'm not quite doing this in real time. I don't have enough space, storage space, but I'm not taking mini breaks and you're not missing much. It's pretty much about all I edit out of my videos is walking around looking for tools. Sure none of you have that problem. Here I'm just gonna cut this. I've got plenty of extra hose. See if I can squirt fuel in my face. Cut your fuel line last, just in case it's got fuel in it. Don't just keep draining down while you're trying to work on everything. Okay. See if I can get this plug out. Oh gosh. Oh, not gonna be able to get it out unless I get both screws out, eh? The other one was hidden under the battery cable. Oh, oil on my fingers. I gotta keep a close eye on that goofy chicken. Leave the shop door open. Chances are she's gonna run in here. She likes to look for bugs, which is okay. But occasionally she decides she wants to try to get on top of something and take a nap or try to lay an egg on something. And chicken claws are bad for paint. Next up is the control rod that goes over to the steering cable. These are the same on both motors, so I'm gonna leave the one that's in it. Next project will be raising the motor up and pulling the bolts out of the lift cylinder. Can't get to it when the motor's down, which is rather inconvenient. Okay, that's the cable. Probably can't see it over there. So to raise the motor, I took my negative and my positive that go to the battery. Just popped them up here. Just went to negative to a ground on the motor and positive onto the solenoid. That'll power up my tilt and trim assembly so I can raise it up, get this bolt out. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is take this nut off. This here is just a stud, goes straight through there. Got a nut on both ends. We only need to take one of them off. We need to get this nut off, not the one over here. Once we get the nut off, we'll just take the tension off the motor and pull this pin out from the other side once we get the tension off the cylinders. Then we'll have to retract the cylinders back into the holes. Oh, I had a funny one a second ago. My idiot neighbors that are to the south of me. Woman's just a miserable person. Just an old drunk. Nothing against drunks, but she's pretty miserable. Anyways, they got a big pond on their property, and there's a pond behind our property, which we're currently buying, and then there's property north of them. And the whistle that goes, well, drain pipe, for people that don't know what a whistle is, goes under the road that they have on their property. And beavers keep plugging that sucker up. And they refuse to clean it up. They will not clean it out. So every time we get a rain, my neighbors and the neighbors to the north of them, their properties just flood like crazy and the water just sits there. So anyways, what happens is every couple of years, my neighbors, used to be Ricky, the guy that passed away, would go over there with the tractor, clean the thing out, you know, get it to where you could get a machine or get the water opened up, get it to flow through there. Well, we got a rain a couple of weeks ago. Well, yeah, it's about a week and a half ago. So property behind us, the two properties to the north of them, completely flooded, and water would not recede. Finally, one of the neighbors rented a tractor, got in there and did what needed to be done, cleaned the thing out. Well, that makes the old drunk lady mad. Every time she gets mad, every time somebody does that, cusses them out. Well, my wife's back there helping the lady clean the property, got the bolt out. And old drunk lady goes out there, madder than heck, drunker than a skunk, drives over on my neighbor's property. My wife's just playing around on the tractor and she's cussing her up one side and down the other. Keep in mind, my wife isn't the one that dug it out. I wasn't either. She just comes over there cussing and raising crap, you know. It's like, man, you're a piece of work. She's like, I'm calling the police. It's like, what are you calling the police for? What are you going to tell them? That you can't keep your property clean and it's causing other people's property to flood? I mean, what are you telling the police? What are you telling them? Anyways, so next step will be to go on the other side and pop the nut off of this, push the pin out, and lift the engine up. All right, pop this nut off of here, put the cherry picker on the engine. Once you get some tension up on it, we'll pull this bolt out, the engine will be free. We'll do the exact same thing on the other engine. I might do the this part, the bracket part of the other motor, off camera. My objective is pick this up just high enough where this bolt will slide easy. At that point, the motor should come straight up. So as soon as I notice any pickup at all, we'll stop. That's pretty close. There are some, on some of them there's shims, little copper shims in between the swivel point pin and the bracket. Okay, it's moving. Okay. All right, the motor is free. Okay, there one of the shims fell out. All right, we're free. So these little tiny, I believe, phenolic, I guess rub plates you'd call them, washers, shims, go in between these hard points where the lift cylinders and the hinge pin are. So I'm gonna put those in there. I got a little bit of grease on there to lube them and to keep it stuck. More than likely I'll knock those out because I'm wrestling this thing by myself. Go ahead, just pop that bolt in and hook the lift cylinders up. The lower unit is pulled off. I'm going to put a impeller in that. I'll show you how to do that when I get to that point. Okay, so I'm very carefully going to try to lower this down, which is difficult because my lift is kind of my cherry picker is kind of an all or nothing kind of machine. Actually, I think I'm going to grease that pin better. This should get grease on it anyways when you grease the center pin there. It has grease zerk fittings on it, but this might help it go in a little easier. Okay, reload. There. It's quite challenging to do by yourself. Let's see. Straight in there. Okay. All right, she's almost there. Give her a little bit of a slight tap. As soon as it gets close to where it needs to be, okay, as soon as I feel it touch, I was gonna say that I was gonna leverage that around, but it just went in. At this point, I'll take it. All right. This isn't too awfully boring. Like I said though, I'm into a lot of different stuff. So if you don't like this, wait around and I'll have something else. You might like it more. Okay, got my pin in, got my shims in. I'm gonna put my nut on there just to say I done it. All right. What I'm gonna do is rehook my strap down here at the bottom so I can pick this up and get my cross bolt in for my lift cylinders. Okay. Get that up high enough I can get the cross bolt in. Should be about there. All right. You flipping over. So what I'm gonna do is, again, hook my positive negative up so I can leverage this dude up with the actual cylinders and the battery. Okay, it's gotta run the cylinders up. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right, she's in that side. Go up just a hair more and we're good. Yeah. Okay. My nut, my washer on. Give them a snug. We'll call this thing good for tonight anyways. Same video, different day. I'm going to hook the lines and everything back up. All right. My tools. I leave these just a little loose until I grease them. That way it lets the grease squish out a little bit between the stuff. Cool beans. Next step is going to be drop this down a little farther, start hooking the cables back up. I need to change the latch over from the other motor because this one's missing. So I'll put that on it and bring you back. All right, next thing we're gonna do is get our power cable and our battery cables, feed them through here. These routed up where they go. Okay. Going to hook up my positive here. My ground is going to go right there. Put these these both on here loose first. Ground will go right here. Okay. I'm definitely going to want to replace the fuel lines and at least check the fuel filter on this. Potentially do carb gaskets, but they didn't really appear to do any leaking when I test run it the other day. So, I don't know. I've got a extra set of carbs that are freshly rebuilt that I can slap right on there if I feel the need. All right, next up is this little collar. You just slip that up in there and put the retaining screw in. Let's see, this screw. Can't hardly see it in there. Okay, I think it started. Sure hope this engine works out good for this boat. If it don't, we'll slap that 70 on it. And if that blows up, then I guess we'll just build a motor. I've got a 105 horse 4-cylinder. Looks just like this, but it's down on compression on a couple cylinders. So it needs an overhaul. Let's see. Next up, power cables. Let's see, we'll start at the top. It's going to be a yellow. Next up on the list is going to be a white. The purple here is for a tachometer, which this boat doesn't have. So it'll just be getting zip tied off. All right. Next one is the green, just choke. Next up, just my red, just my battery lead to the switch, which then the red carries power up to the switch, and then all the other wires come right back and bring power to the appropriate spots. Okay. Next up is going to be blue, which is this one. Last but not least, it's going to be the black. The orange I've got to hook up too. It's for the heat buzzer, which if I had been paying more attention last year would have kept me from burning the engine down. Well, maybe. Probably the damage was already done, but she popped a head gasket. All right. Okay, that's our power connections. Now we're going to spin the engine and hook up the cables. Let's see. Don't guess this one has a home on this motor. Let's take that off. Oh yeah, got a little bitty clamp to hold my power cables down here, which you can't see, but I'm going to put it on. These are just basically just a restraint, keep the cables from working out when you're turning the engine constantly. Keep from jerking the thing right out of the motor housing. Well, that's hard to start. Screw's a little slippery. Okay. All right, let's get our fuel and control cables into this dude. Be careful you don't twist these and break them, because they are quite difficult to find. Okay. Snake them around here. Get the plug back in. And move my fuel line so I can get a screw in. Okay. Not going to be able to see much here for a second, but to get this screw started, and there's not much room for my big fat hands. Okay. All the Chryslers have a model ID tag with the engine serial number and model number right here. It's important if you need to order like carburetor kits or really just about anything else for them. Okay, one more screw to get in. This one's going to be extremely difficult to get in there. So I apologize again for putting my hands in your face. Okay. Alright, what a booger. Get that thing started. Okay, get the cable up around it so I don't break it. Okay. We're on the home stretch. Okay. I can give that one a little zip. Alright. Fuel line out of the way for a minute. I had labeled these cables top and bottom. This one was the bottom, which must mean this one's the top. Get behind this line. Flip this little feller over. This is for forward, reverse, and neutral, I suppose. Alright, find my little screw, which I think I knocked down. I'll use this guy. Come on, don't drop it down in the motor. That hole is the hole of no return. Okay. For a little snug. Don't want to leave that very loose, potentially rattle off going across the lake. It's not a win. Not a win for Team Us. Alright, snake the bottom cable in. Okay, let me find another screw. Pretty sure I knocked it down here. Oh, yep, found it. All right. Give her a little snug. And just put that screwdriver right there on the floor for now. Okay. And we pull it up. This has a slide back collar on it. So you push it up, pull the collar back, put it on, and then let the collar back up. All right. So that gets us back in position there. Wow, this motor's neutral safety switch is way out of adjustment. The ramp is here, it's supposed to be centered there, and the button's here. And looking up there, the boat is in let's see. Yeah, boat's in neutral right now. So it won't even start till I slide that adjuster way down. Anyways, save that for another minute. Same here. Slide your collar back. That one I'm gonna have to get up to the front and manipulate the throttle. Well, I don't feel like crawling up there. But anyways, pull that back, snap it on that dude. Next up, I'm gonna put my steering rod arm, which is up here in the front of the boat, which you can't really see. Let me move the camera. All right, so we got to get is our shift rod, or our steering rod, which is this guy. Got to fish it up through this hole right here, which I can't see because y'all are in the way, so if I miss the hole a couple times, don't laugh at me. Let's go. There she comes. A little greasy. All right. Alright, clamp that down so it can't turn. Alright, that'll do it. This little fella right here is what I was telling you, has to scoot over. This little plunger here, this little micro switch, for the boat to start, this is the starter solenoid wires. The wires come in, go through this switch. When the switch is open, the power stops. Switch is depressed, power goes back through the wire, back to the starter. But you can see this thing's adjusted all the way up here. So the linkage on this boat was way out of whack. So I need to slide loosen these screws up, slide this down to where this part here is centered here in the neutral position, which is where the boat is. Well, I believe this is where we'll call it a day with this video. Got the motor on, got all the power cables, control cables, everything connected. What I'm still going to do is give this thing a real good cleaning. I'm going to replace all the fuel lines, with the exception of my incoming line, which goes right there. I'm going to pull all the old fuel lines off. They're rock hard. It's old emissions, or not emissions, but manifold vacuum tube. Pull all this nasty rubber off, get it replaced. Probably throw a new set of plugs in it. A new impeller, which I'll show you how to do probably when I get it. But hopefully the fuel pump runs. Take the screw out and there's a filter in there. But for now, she's got a new engine on her, one that runs. So that's a big step forward. Won't be no time, hopefully we'll be out on the lake. And if it craps out, I got a trolling motor. So got two motors on the boat. Hopefully between the two of them, I can get back to the dock. Thanks for watching.